EcoMark solar, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay,
The whole screen is the one slide. Okay.
good. So this is our standard proposal. So if you all don't mind, I'm just going to give you the quick sales pitch. But the EcoMark advantage, again, we like to highlight the fact that we've been around since 2010. We're very proactive in our industry. I'm on the board of COSA. Previously, Alex was on the board of COSA. Alex is actually now an elected state official. If any of you know him by name, his name's Alex Valdez. He represents District 5 here in Denver. And he had a successful campaign back in 2018, and he served his first session in 2019 and 2020. And so as an advocate for the industry, we've got a seat at the table in that regard as well. We have been blessed to be awarded with our volume for installations in the state of Colorado. There's several different ratings and awards that come out from industry magazines and the like. And so we've always been ranked based on our growth and our volume. And these are some of the community organizations that, as Max can attest to, our company does volunteer days and donations every year. And we've committed to a handful of organizations that we've been working with over the years for a while now. The Homefront Cares is one down in Colorado Springs, actually. You guys should definitely look into it. It's a cool organization. Why energy storage? So there's a couple of key things that people are trying to accomplish when they want to get a battery. One would be stay powered when the unexpected happens. So when you have a battery, you're no longer still tied to the grid. And as you all know, when the grid goes down, so does your solar, right? If you have a battery, you're able to stay powered up in the case of an outage. And not to get too doomsday-y, but wildfires and hurricanes and natural disasters and all these things are becoming more commonplace. And so I think that's one of the motivating factors behind a lot of people adding batteries to their system. Again, keep your system powered during an outage. So with a home battery, you're going to continue to generate solar energy. I personally got solar in 2010, and I'm in Excel territory. So I've been, net metering this whole time. I used to get a little bit of money back. And then I got a plug-in car and had a child, so I use a little more power than I used to, and so I'm not getting extra credits anymore. But now that I installed the battery, I've had some fun with it, and I've done some experiments where I've gone out, killed the main breaker to my house, and just lived off grid for the weekend. So it is something that I know firsthand works very well. And then the big topic is avoiding the different utility rate hikes that we're seeing through peak demand or time of use or time of day, however they want to phrase it. The utility company's getting creative, and they're coming out with all these different ways to nickel and dime us. Time of use is the new favorite, and batteries can help really do something we call rate shaving. And it's totally legal. It's actually something Fort Collins utility has been really great about and encouraged, because they see the benefit to their grid and the fact that it reduces some of the load on their grid. So you can program these batteries to operate during those peak windows, and you can shave your rates and avoid those peak costs. So those are kind of the general ideas as to why people are calling us and signing up for batteries, right? One of the things we do during the sales process, and I hope you all are able to have a one-on-one with Max after this, and we'll get a custom quote for you and your situation. But one of the first things we start out with is, what do you want the battery for in the first place? What are you trying to keep powered, so that we can size it accordingly? And we go through this checklist and just kind of remind people what some of the most important things are, right? Your refrigerator to keep your food, microwave to be able to cook the food, lights, TV, computer, and Wi-Fi. I think security is really important. If anyone has a home security system, you want to keep that up and running. And then, you can start checking off the list as far as how many lights and how many outlets that you want to power. I also think the gas water heater and the furnace blower are important. Most people forget that their furnace might be gas powered, but there's still a little electric fan in there that if you lose power, it wouldn't work. So we always make sure that your HVAC system is connected to the battery. And then the bigger the battery you get, the more things you can check off. If you've got a refrigerator or a meat freezer in the basement, for example, if you've got a well pump or a sub pump, And then we even have some really fancy clients that have really fancy fish tanks. I even have a guy, it wasn't our client, it was a Sonnen customer in a different state, who had a $500,000 worth of wine in his wine cooler or wine cellar. And he bought a bunch of batteries to make sure that if the grid went down, his $500,000 investment in wine didn't go bad. So there's all sorts of applications, right? Medical equipment from that standpoint. And obviously with COVID, we saw a spike in people calling because they wanted to be prepared and they wanted to be prepared for the worst. And that's something to consider too. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but when you have solar and a battery, if things really hit the fan, your house is going to be up and running, no problem. So it's hard to do Q&A with 20 people on the line. So I'm just going to keep rambling. We'll take questions after. Is that okay? So we have three options, and they kind of go up in price. So we have the portable power station, which is this Goal Zero image that you're seeing here. And you can buy a Goal Zero at REI. They're a really cool product, really great brand out of Utah. They make these portable batteries in all different sizes, from 200 amp hours all the way up to 5,000 amp hours. And if you go with one of the slightly bigger ones, we can actually install a small sub panel and we can connect that battery to that sub panel, and you can get up to 4 loads running off of that battery. So that's kind of the entry level opportunity, where if you've got a garage and a fridge and a microwave and a couple lights that you want to have working for an extended amount of time, one of these Goal Zeros can be set up that way. But the cool thing is you can also unplug it and take it with you. You can go camping, tailgating, what have you, and you can power your whole campsite for the weekend. The only caveat to the Goal Zero is it isn't connected to the solar. And so if you were in an extended outage, once that battery is depleted, you need to find somewhere to plug it in and recharge it. So that's kind of the caveat with the Goal Zero. Then you get to the actual whole home backup, and I think what most of you are more interested in, which is either our essential backup station or our comfort and carefree station. The essential backup station is the LG Chem 10,000 kilowatt hour battery. And this is a newer product for us. Again, we took our time, did our research. It's been on the market for a little while now. I would say about 2 years. And LG is really competing head to head with the Tesla Powerwall. The battery bank inside of this guy is the exact same battery bank that Tesla is using. They come out of the same factory. It's a lithium ion, nickel, magnesium, cobalt composure. And it has its pros and cons, but LG has done a great job with it. And they've really been able to bring the price point down to compete with Tesla. And we just started offering it this month, and we've had a lot of interest because it is at a much better price point than we previously had to offer. And then the comfort and carefree solution is the Sonnen. And I know that I had a chance to talk to Ken and also Brian, who's on here, about some Sonnen options. And they're definitely the higher end. They definitely come with a handful of more features, and you can get a bit more capacity out of them, but it comes at a price. And I actually have a Sonnen in my house because that's all we had available last summer. So I have a 5 kilowatt hour Sonnen battery all hooked up to my house, and it's been awesome. It's a really, really cool product. But so that's kind of our three ranges. And then I'm going to dive into each one a little bit more, and then we can go to questions. So the Goal Zero, again, this is an image off of their website. Goal Zero is a retail product, but we are a retailer, if you will. So you can buy one from REI for the same price that you could buy one from us at retail price. But what we offer is that extra 4-breaker installation. And so that does require a permit, requires an electrician. We decide which 4 breakers you want to have available and accessible to this battery. And we put in a sub panel, and we put in a critical load, I should say. And if the power were to go out, it is manual, but you just have to manually go out to that critical load panel, flip it over from off-grid or on-grid to off-grid, and you'll be able to charge those 4 breakers off of this Goal Zero. If you go with a 1500, it's $49.50. If you go with a 3000, it's $59.50. And you can stack multiple Goal Zeros on top of each other if you like. That $4,950 price tag, that $5,950 price tag, that includes our full-blown installation that I've been talking about. Retail on these is about $2,000 for a 1,500 and about $3,000 for a 3,000 if you were to go to the store and pick one up. That extra cost is what we add in for our installation if you're going to go that route. But they're pretty small. You know, you can see in the picture, they come with a little roll cart. They've got a 2-year warranty and they weigh about 40 to 70 pounds. So they got a little heft to them, but you throw that in the camper and head out for the weekend and you can have some fun with it in that way too. So that's our Goal Zero option and price point. And then the LG is what I think most people are going to be interested in, because this price point at $11,950 for 10,000 kilowatt hours is pretty awesome. And in the past, for a Sonnen that produced the same 10,000 kilowatt hours, we were closer to 20,000. So this has almost cut the price in half. It is a different chemical compound than Sonnen. Like I said, it's the same as Tesla. It's the lithium ion NMC, or nickel, magnesium, cobalt. And so the pros to that are it's cheaper and it has a great lifespan and it does all the things that we need a battery to do. The cons are technically that chemical compound could, if the battery were to be punctured, it could create a fire hazard. And that's why you might see a video of a Tesla that got in a car crash and caught on fire. It's because that nickel, magnesium, cobalt chemical reaction in the worst possible situation, if that were to happen, can create a fire. Now, these things are going to be installed in your garage, your basement, mounted to the wall. Unless you drove your car through the garage and into the battery, there shouldn't be a problem. But the other cons are that NMC combination does degrade a little faster, and you can't deplete the battery as far and recharge it as often over the course of time. It's still going to work under warranty for 10 years. You're still going to get plenty of cycles out of it. It just degrades a little bit faster. But the price point is there for a reason. It's an awesome product that we're really excited to move forward with. And it has all the software features that you're looking for. So you can choose all the breakers that you want to put on there, and we'll help you go through that calculation. It has a 10,000 kilowatt hour capacity. And so there's a certain amount of things that you can put on the battery. And if you were in a grid outage situation, then it becomes energy management. And if you obviously are running everything at the same time, the battery's going to drain faster. But if you're conservative and you're only using the electricity you need, that battery's going to last a lot longer. And in a solar plus battery scenario, your solar will still be feeding to the house. You're not going to be, that cutoff won't happen. And so during the day, your house is going to consume the energy it needs on demand and send the extra energy to the battery. At night, when the sun's gone and the solar isn't working, then you're going to be running completely off the battery. But the next day, it'll recharge. And that would be a cycle. Comes with a 10-year warranty. These things are about 176 pounds, but they do mount on the wall, and we make sure that we have the proper mounting gear to hold that weight. And as you can see in the picture, it's hanging above a couch for reference, but it's about 3 feet by 3 feet-ish. Sticks about 8 inches off the wall. So if anyone's interested in one of these, obviously we can follow up, and Max can put together a custom presentation and kind of decide, if this would meet your needs. And then from there, you step up to the Sonnen Eco 15, which means 15 kilowatt hours. And the Sonnen comes at a higher price point. For one reason, it's a different chemical compound. It's lithium ion LiFePO. I gotta make sure I get this right. Lithium ion iron phosphate. And it's a different chemical compound. It has 0 fire hazard. If you ran your car into this guy, all the chemicals would just dissipate. So it's got a little bit higher of a safety rating. Technically, it's recyclable. Every component within the battery can be recycled. And it has just a bigger capacity. It can charge more things. You can get more energy out of it over the course of time. And you can have a deeper depth of discharge and recycle. So it just has a little bit stronger meat and bones to it. But beyond that, again, you can pick all the breakers and we can size it accordingly. The cool thing about Sonnen is you can actually go from 5 kilowatt hours all the way up to, there really is no limit. This big white cabinet that you're seeing has the ability to add 2.5 kilowatt hour batteries in 5 kilowatt hour increments. So the smallest you can do is a 5 kilowatt hour. And then you can go from there you can add it 2.5 at a time. So you can go 7.5 kilowatt hours, 10 kilowatt hours, 12.5, 15, so on and so forth. We're showing you the 15 partially because this is a sales proposal and it just naturally makes sense for us to progress in size and price. But you can go with a smaller Sonnen if you like that chemical makeup and you like their technology better. It's just that a Sonnen 5 kilowatt hour or 10 kilowatt hour is going to cost more than the 10 kilowatt hours that you're going to get out of the LG. So it's kind of one of those, you get what you pay for, and this is the higher end product. And the software is great. Like I said, I have one at my house. I opted into the Excel time of use rate when it was still an opt-in. They're going to be rolling that out starting next year across their entire platform. But I opted in because I was getting the battery and I wanted to know firsthand how this works. And so what I have set up now is my battery is programmed to recharge itself from the grid during the low tier time windows and supplement my house along with using the solar during the upper tier time frames. So I'm avoiding all of the rates and I'm getting as much credit for my solar production as possible. And then both of these options come with a smartphone app. If I'm not at home and the power goes out, I can manage it from my phone and I can control, which breakers are being turned on and turned off. And I can see my usage and my consumption. And it's just a really cool app for those of us that like to geek out on those things. But again, this one we're showing 15 kilowatt hours. It comes at a higher price of $29,950. It has a 10-year warranty as well. And these guys are much bigger. They don't mount to the wall. They're standalone, but they're much heavier and they've got a little bit more size to them. It's almost as big as a skinny refrigerator, if you will. So those are kind of our three options. And the opportunity for us to present to the REOCA team is an awesome opportunity for us to at least put that out there and see who's interested. And we would love to earn your business and we would love to put together a promotional package or promotional price for everybody that's a member of REOCA. So these are retail prices. I've obviously got some room there and we want to offer everybody that's interested a team or a group discount, if you will. From there, if you were to sign up with us, we're going to go through the whole installation process. We'll come out and do a site audit, dial in all the loads and all the electric box components to make sure we know exactly what you want to be put on the battery and how we're going to do this installation. And then our master electrician and our engineers will do their design review and get that permitted with the jurisdiction. Depending on your jurisdiction, depending on your utility company, we've got plenty of hoops to jump through there to get it approved for the permitting stage. And then we come out and do the installation. And I'll admit, these installations take a good 3 or 4 days. There's a lot going on and there's a lot of work for our guys to be doing. So we'll schedule that with you and we'll need to coordinate, again, back to the COVID thing, access and the like. But it is a multiple day installation and that includes making sure everything's working accordingly and that you know how to use your new battery. And then from there, we have to pass final inspection with the utility and with the local jurisdiction. Once all those inspections are passed, we can energize the battery and you're off and running. So I'll stop talking for a minute. What do you guys think?
It's definitely some really cool technology. I'm kind of curious to know what's involved with like what the utilities are looking at. So like somebody that has a solar setup already that adds the battery, what is kind of the criteria that the utility is looking at to evaluate whether or not they'll allow it?
For one, just making sure that we know what we're doing. We have our master electrician signing off on everything and everything's up to code requirements.
Okay.
And then depending on the utility, there's different rules to the game. Like I said, Fort Collins utility has been very proactive, and they're encouraging batteries, and they're allowing you to program the battery, to shave rates, and to supplement the load on the grid. And they've been very forward in that. Black Hills, Mountain View, a lot of the REAs, they're a little bit more difficult to deal with. But at the end of the day, they can't say no. They just keep coming up with hoops for us to jump through. And then to your original question, it's obviously very important that this is done correctly and to code, and that it meets all of those electric code standards, so that we're not, creating any sort of hazard or safety situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Jake, do you have specific experience in installing under a BHE scenario that you can share? What problems BHE is making you go through?
I apologize. I don't have firsthand feedback on that. I know we've done some jobs in Pueblo or with Black Hills. But I will say, no news is good news. I didn't hear anything specifically, or there wasn't any major holdup on those projects.
Okay. I had a couple points that I wanted to make. I'm going to just say them, not as questions, but and correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. When you put one of these batteries in, you're not getting any support for 240 volt AC. So, like a big air conditioning, central air compressor is not going to work. I mean, I think you could do that, but you just need more batteries, right? The other thing is that you're not going to be you're still going to be a net metering customer. You're still connected to the grid. So you're not going to get away from that either, unless you're building a new property that you don't have access to any power. Then you would design that house to work off a battery. So, that's a good choice.
Yeah, that's true, Ken. You would still be a net metering customer. But one positive of that is it means you don't have to run your battery all the way through and cycle it all the way through every day. So your battery is going to last a lot longer because of that.
Okay, good point.
Thomas, would you like to ask your question? Or Tom? Tom's question on the chat is, can you talk about installation with an EV charger involved?
Sorry, I'm trying to go back to where I can see that chat. That's my bad. Okay, so kind of to Ken's point as well, we kind of steer away from trying to power everything that has a 240 volt receptacle with the batteries. Part of it because we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, and the fact of the matter is if you're trying to charge your car or run your electric stove or your AC unit off of this battery, it's going to drain it much faster, and you're not going to get as long of a window there to be able to operate those things. It's not that it can't be done. So you can have it connected to the EV charger or to the AC or to the the electric range. But it will drain that battery very quickly if you're trying to take the battery to charge the car. And it's kind of a funny and interesting scenario because the EV industry is also on the cusp of essentially offering your car as your backup battery, and you can essentially have the car backfeed the house. So in that scenario, if you were having the car or the battery charge the car, you're just sending energy from one battery to the other potentially, because there is a future where you could also power the house off of the car. So it can be done, but it's not advised.
So Jake, this is Brian. You and I talked the other day, and I reached out to your company almost 3 weeks ago. So the next step, sign up today. What does that really mean when you sign up today?
That means
I'm still looking for a site audit, and we're not getting anywhere on that direction.
absolutely. And sign up today means you're making the commitment to move forward with this project and work with EcoMark and trusting that we are going to take full take full lead on that project and work with you to dial in the final pieces and to make sure that we get all the right loads and all the right breakers that you want to be part of the system. Sorry, one sec, guys. My earbuds are about to die on me.
So the experience I've had is that means I need to sign a contract first, then you'll come out and look
Can you guys
at it.
hear
And
me?
if it's not the right size, then
Yeah.
you'll resize it, and that's what I have to buy.
So there is
Sorry, can you guys hear me there?
We can hear you.
Okay. So what Brian's addressing, and Brian was kind enough to reach out to us and get a proposal started. And Brian's got a very unique home with a lot of really great renewable things going on. But yeah, Brian, our company procedure, and this goes for just a regular solar installation or regular battery installation, is to present you with the options and the pricing that we know we can stick to, and to have the conversation about all the different questions and solutions that you're looking for the solar and or the battery to solve. And with the technology and the software that we have for a regular old solar presentation, we're able to do that design with satellite imagery and be very, very accurate in what we can fit on the roof and what it'll produce given the shade and the azimuth and all the factors. And then when we come out and do site audit, we dial that in and we take final measurements, make sure we didn't miss a roof vent here or there, and make sure and take a look at the electric box and decide whether or not it needs any upgrades in order to handle the solar and or the storage that we're putting on there. We do have some protections in our agreement for the customer, where if when we come out and do that site audit, we're way off base and what we thought we could offer is not possible, then there's a caveat in the contract there that you can cancel and there's no harm, no foul. But that doesn't happen very often because we know what we're presenting is feasible, and we know that there is a solution. And if the customer is willing to take that step forward and at least sign our installation agreement, then we're able to roll trucks and get our site auditor out there and spend all the extra time doing the next step in the design and the engineering and making sure that we have the solution that you're looking for. Did that address the? I cut out for a second there when I was switching my headphones.
We heard you. That was. I had this is actually a question because I know a little bit about Brian's home because he's presented to REOCA before. You've got geothermal heat. Is that a 120 volt appliance or is that a 240 volt to run that? I mean, it works off a compressor, right?
No, I don't think there's any compressor in it. And again, I'm not an electrician. I think it's 120 volt. But that's why I was curious. Jake mentioned he ran his whole house over a weekend with a 5 kilowatt generator. How did you do that without heat or electricity or running your deep freezer or anything like that? I'm just kind of curious because that would be, I think, tough to do. The proposal I have won't run any of that. Won't run our freezer or won't run our geothermal heating system or cooling. We don't have a gas line to the place, so it's just a fan that blows over the pipes that circulate through, down into the ground. So it's pretty efficient.
So in my situation, I have a smaller house. It's about 1,500 square feet, and my battery is connected to about 75% of my main panel. So when I was doing those weekend experiments, I couldn't turn on every light in the house, and I didn't have my oven accessible because it's an electric range. So I was not able to cook anything on the oven. But the fridge, the microwave, 75% of the lights in my house, my HVAC system, and my security, TV, internet, Wi-Fi, all of that operates just fine in my scenario on a 5 kilowatt hour battery. And like I said, you have to be smart about managing your loads in that scenario. You can't have everything on the entire time, or you will drain the battery quickly. So obviously this group is very energy conscious and energy aware and understands how to do those energy management measures. But on the flip side, we want to size the battery according to your needs. And you might need a 10 or a 20 kilowatt hour system in order to operate everything that you want to operate. And that's why we go through that checklist in the initial, let me go back up to it, conversation to say, you know, hey, what are your goals? If the grid went out, what would you really be interested in making sure that you still have? And you don't have to power the entire house, right? Like I lived for the weekend just fine with 75% of my house having electricity. And if it was an extended outage, I would be able to continue on that way just fine. But if you really want to have everything in the house and you want to be able to run completely off grid, you're just going to need a larger battery. And when we start the conversation, we want to find out what it is that you're looking for and what goal we're trying to accomplish and what your budget is. And if we can agree that we've got a solution and that fits your budget and will fit the needs that you have, then we ask you to sign up so that we can initiate the site audit process and send our site auditor out there to take more in-depth measurements, walk through the house with you and actually visualize and confirm what it is and what are all the different things that you want to have powered up and figure out what those loads are and where those are in the main panel. And then make sure that we have the system sized accurately. And what happens more often than not is we start with a smaller system, and by the time we've finished the site audit, somebody wants to add more, or they decide that they want to have the ability to power more things. On the flip side, a lot of times we do the site audit and we are able to determine that maybe you don't need everything powered up, and maybe that heat pump that like Brian was talking about is 120 instead of 240, and we're able to include that. And we're just going to work with the homeowner through all those steps and to make sure that the final design and the final installation meets your needs and meets your budget. And we're not going to go to the next step until we've confirmed that with you. So we aren't going to start doing permits and all that stuff until we've gotten through the site audit and the design review stage to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
We had a question from Charles Paulson. I don't know if Charles, you want to answer the question, or I can read it.
I see it now. No, actually, I have a lease from Solar City too. Believe it or not. When we first started EcoMark, Solar City and leasing was the big thing, and that was back in 2010, and that's when I got my system. And I kind of signed up. I mean, I bought from Solar City with the caveat that the sales guy would introduce me to his sales manager. And I took that meeting as an opportunity to see if they'd be willing to hire EcoMark and purchase leads from EcoMark. And that worked out. And for the first couple of years, we were a lead generator for Solar City. And I kind of got my foot in the door by signing up for a Solar City lease back in the day. So it works totally fine. I had my battery installed. I was able to get a 26% tax credit on my battery because it was connected to my solar. And there was no issue. I don't even know if Solar City knows I have a battery.
He also had a question about whether where that battery needs to be installed. Can it be on the outside wall, etc.?
They can't be outside. They have to be in some sort of conditioned space. So unfortunately, a detached garage is not going to work unless it's conditioned, unless it's insulated. But an attached garage works just fine. We're going to aim for the party wall with the house because that's going to have the best insulation. But any wall on the garage will work just as long as it's attached to the house, because you don't want to have those extreme cold temperatures and those extreme high temperatures. It does have to be in some sort of conditioned space. My personal setup is in the basement because I have a detached garage, an uninsulated detached garage. So my battery's in the basement.
Yeah, that's my situation. I have a detached garage, and I don't really have a whole lot of room in the basement either. This house was built back in the 30s, and they only built like about a half to a 3/4 basement. I'm wondering myself where the heck I could put the batteries, because when they installed my solar system, they actually had to take my breaker box, which didn't meet code, and move it outside. What was that?
That was a big truck that just drove by. I apologize. I'm outside.
But yeah, that mine. Go ahead.
I was just saying every situation is different. And again, that's why we want to work hand in hand with you to figure out where is this battery going to go? Where are we going to run all the conduits? Because, you know, the battery has to be connected to the main panel and everything else. So there's definitely some mapping out to do once we get on site and decide exactly where this is going to go and make sure we have the space for it. The nice thing about those LGs, again, I'm going to scroll back to that one, is they are considerably lighter and smaller, and they can be wall mounted. And so I think it's kind of funny, but a lot of the marketing material you see for Sonnen and LG will show the battery in somebody's living room or in their kitchen. And in Germany, where Sonnen is based out of, and where they have an incredible amount of market share, it is kind of it's something people have in their living room apparently and show off to their friends. But I think that's also why they made sure to put it in a nice, clean-looking white cabinet that you could put somewhere and it would not be an eyesore.
I have a question. Are there any federal or state rebates available now?
Federal tax credit, yes, because if you install a battery and it is coupled with solar, then it counts for that 26% federal tax credit. There aren't any state or local rebates that we know of right now, but those things do tend to come and go. So there may very well be some battery-specific rebates that we see in the future.
Okay, thank you.
That 26% tax credit, it's actually going to go down to 22% by the end of the year. So basically, you would need to have that battery installed and operating by the end of the year to qualify for the full 26%.
But again, just to reiterate, since I know a lot of people on here already have solar, if you put the battery in now, talk to your tax accountant. But it is legal and it is totally fine to plug that into your taxes for next year and claim the 26% tax credit on the cost of the battery. You just got to make sure that it is tied to your solar, because that's what makes it part of a renewable energy system. And that's what the tax credit is based around. I think Brian and I had been talking earlier in the week about, I'm sorry, Brian, that might have been somebody else. They were looking at putting in a gas generator, and they asked if that would qualify for the tax credit. And unfortunately, no, because the gas generator is not powered by a renewable source. But the batteries do qualify because they're technically being charged up by a renewable source.
Are you doing installations where you do a generator and a battery at the same time?
No, we haven't really tapped into the generator installations. We've kind of stayed our lane with just solar and batteries and roofing. We do a lot of roofing just because we need to be able to whenever there's a hailstorm or what have you. So no, we aren't doing any generators, and I have not yet really seen a way to have the battery and the generator talk to each other. It's really just the battery and the solar that can talk to each other. But one of the other one of the other manufacturers that's getting into the game is Generac. And Generac is, as some of you know, one of the biggest generator companies, and they have a very big market share in the generator space. So they're coming out with their own battery product, and it's going to be the same lithium-ion NMC technology, and they're relatively new. So again, they're somebody that we've got our eye on, but they haven't been in the market long enough for us to feel comfortable selling and installing.
We do, just for if anyone's wondering, we have a whole range of different payment options on these batteries. Various payment plans, different links, different percentage rates. So
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this opportunity is it doesn't have to be a cash transaction. And like Max said, we've got different financing options and different payment plans for people that want to take this route. If you want to do it in cash and avoid any financing, obviously that's an option. What we're seeing in the battery space and what we're experiencing is we're still in the early adopter stage, and all of you are part of REOCA because you're passionate and forward thinking about this stuff. But I'm not going to lie, the ROI is not necessarily the selling point. The batteries are there to give you that security and that safety, and to be at the leading edge of technology. And when there's a power outage, you're going to have that safety net. And if and when your utility changes to some sort of time of use rate or some other different version of tiers, you're going to have the advantage of being able to program your battery and your solar to avoid that. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's an immediate payback or that you're going to save thousands of dollars on your electric bill just by shaving the rates a little bit. So the batteries are definitely something that you have to want and that you have to really be excited about doing and put it to use and live off grid, like I've been doing on the weekends. But also know that if and when there is a situation, you've got that safety net, your power and your house is going to be up and running, no problem. It's kind of fun when the power goes out. There's an automatic transfer switch in the battery. So the grid will go down and you got to basically count to 10 and you can hear the switch go off, and then everything that you've got connected to the battery comes back online. And that's really neat to be able to do. And it's really nice to have that security depending on where you live and what's your situation. And like I showed on that checklist there, if there are medical needs or if there is some sort of an investment, like a really fancy fish tank, that if it went down, you would lose thousands and thousands of dollars worth of your aquarium or your wine collection. Or on the medical side, if somebody's on a respirator or some sort of medical device that cannot lose power, you've got that safety and security knowing that you've got the battery in the case of an outage.
I have a question, another one about on this proposal that you have on the LG RESU10. It says program to avoid expensive utility rates based on time of day. How does that actually work? I mean, do you have to, it said program it. Is it like setting a clock, or how does it work?
So I'll give you my situation as an example. So like I said, I signed up for the Excel time of use rate plan, and their time of use works this way. From 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. is a shoulder rate where they charge kind of that middle tier. And I'm trying to remember what the cents per watt is. I want to say it's something like 14 cents from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., they charge 21 cents. That's the upper tier, because they know from 2 to 6, that's when everybody's getting home and turning things on. Mm-hmm. And then from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is another shoulder rate at 14 cents. And then from 9 p.m. around the clock to 9 a.m. is the low rate, down at like 7 cents. And so I have my battery programmed to supplement my load, to provide all the energy that I need from my solar in real time on demand, and from my battery, if necessary, from during those shoulder and that peak period. So from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., my battery is programmed to supplement my power needs as necessary.
And obviously during that window, my solar is also working. So not only am I not pulling any energy from the grid during those shoulder and those peak rates, but any excess production that I have, once the battery is topped off and my house's needs are secure, I'm still net metering. And so that extra energy is still going back to the grid and I'm getting those credits at the higher rate. And then from 9 p.m. until 9 a.m. around the clock, my battery is programmed not to disperse any energy. It's programmed to refill itself, if necessary, from the grid at the lower rate and not supplement any loads. So my house is using electricity it needs at the lower rate.
Oh. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
The time of day plan for Black Hills is different. Okay, it's not as complex, but it's much more expensive. So you know, the normal from 3 p.m. to 7 is going to be the high rate period, and at that period, the cost of electricity is going to be 3 times in the summer and 2 times in the winter what the base rate is, and our base rate in Pueblo is 10 cents. Of course, we know it's really not 10 cents; it's more like 20 cents. So with all the other add-ins that we pay for, right? You know, so the same concept could work. These batteries are really cool. These smart batteries. The Sonnen is a really cool. It's got some cool technology.
Yeah, and that programming is not permanent. You can adjust the programming at any point in time. You know, I'm going to make it sound easy, but the app and the software, once you figure them out, they are pretty easy, and you can set those windows and you can program the battery accordingly, and you can always change that programming if the utility were to change their window or change their rates.
What about the LG Chem battery? Does that have a software component, a smart programming component like Sonnen does?
Are you asking, does it have the same programmability and user-friendly app? Because yes, it does. I don't know their platform firsthand because I'm a Sonnen customer, but I've seen it and I've seen a demo, and yeah, they've got all the same capability.
Okay.
The big difference is the Sonnen's a little bit more customizable, and to get a little bit farther down the rabbit hole, the reason is because the Sonnen is AC coupled. Okay, so the Sonnen comes after the inverter, and that allows it to have a little bit more flexibility on what you can program it to do and what breakers you can program it to be feeding, and you can turn those things on and off from your phone anywhere in the world. The LG Chem is DC coupled, so it's going to come before the inverter, and it's going to be more like a traditional, what everyone thinks of a battery bank. Like it's just sitting there steady state full of power, and it's going to power whatever load needs to be powered. So it isn't tied specifically to specific loads. It's just a battery bank in its true essence, and that you can pull as much energy from it as possible. And to someone's previous question, if you wanted to put a 240 on it, like your car charger or your oven or what have you, you could. Just realize it's going to drain that battery faster.
I would also recommend that if you're interested in one of these batteries, that you I know Sonnen has some videos where they do a battery test, right? So these nickel, magnesium, cobalt batteries that are used by Tesla and LG. When you puncture one of these batteries, they sublimate. Okay, sublimation means when it feels oxygen, it's just going to go into a flame. It's going to burn up. So both of them do that, but the Sonnen battery, and Sonnen doesn't make their batteries, right? They just buy it from a third party, but they're big enough that they get an advantage. And Jake talked to this lithium iron phosphate doesn't burn up as much. So the NMC batteries will kind of burn each other up, and the whole thing goes up in flames, you know. So it's kind of scary to watch. But if you think about it, you got, you know, most of us have these cars parked in the garage full, you know, full of gasoline. If you got, you know, if you got a fire in there, gasoline is pretty explosive too. So there's a lot of energy in these batteries. There's a lot of energy in a tank of gas. You know, so you know, so they're designed with some precautions so they don't overheat and things like that. But you know, I mean, if you got your gun out and shot a bullet through them, there might be a problem. So no gun. Okay.
Yes, it'd be a very extreme situation, but that is kind of the difference in the chemicals. And also, again, it goes back to the Sonnen has a longer lifespan and more capacity, and has a better cycle count, and versus the NMC batteries. But the NMC batteries are cheaper, and they're a little bit easier to install because they're DC coupled, and so we don't necessarily have to sit there and tie them to 24 specific breakers. Okay. It's more, like I said, just in that true essence, it's a battery bank, and it's a source of energy that you can pull from until it's depleted, and or can recharge it the next day.
Now, you know, on my PV installation, I've got these sun power panels that have the microinverter, so it's AC off of those, you know, directly. So, so if you were to go with this LG battery, you would need an inverter to get, you know, to make that work. Am I correct in that?
You are. Very good point. So if you have a microinverter system, you're going to have to go with the Sonnen because you're getting AC off of the roof. Or we could come out and we could take all the microinverters off and put optimizers and a solar edge inverter in, and then you could go with the LG.
Okay.
So I mean, so there's some considerations, right? And obviously, the folks at EcoMark would understand that. So you don't have to be that technical about it.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Just real quick, for folks that do have like a string inverter setup where you know where there's the DC coming down to the garage, how many separate strings can the LG setups couple to? Like if there's 3 or 4 separate strings?
I don't know the exact answer to that. That's a good question. That would be something I'd have to ask our electrician.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because my setup, I have 2 of the 7,000 watt SMA Sunny Boy inverters, and I think it's 3 strings for each one. So that's kind of why I was just wondering as far as the limitations if I'd have to get 2, just to couple everything. So.
No, that's a good question. I apologize. I don't know the 100% accuracy of the answer to that one, but okay. I'm going to use that as a segue to just kind of wrap this up because I know everyone's. I appreciate you guys giving us this much time, and I know you have other topics to cover, and I don't want to take up any more of your meeting, but I will segue by saying every situation is going to be a little different. All of you guys have had solar for a lot longer than most people we approach, and so you might have different setups with microinverters or string inverters or this, that, and the other, or a Solar City lease. And so what we would really love to offer coming out of this meeting is a one-on-one consultation with Max, where we can get a better idea of what your current system is and a better idea of what you're trying to accomplish with a battery and what your budget is. And then from there, dial it in. And like Brian's experienced, you know, we are still learning some of the ropes. And with customers like yourself who were early adopters with solar in the first place and have other things going on in their house that are much more unique and much more advanced than your common homeowner. We're learning some of these things as we go, and we're going to do everything we need to do to get you the right answers and make sure that we get you a solid installation. So we want to have those conversations, and I would love for this to turn into several opportunities for Max to meet with everybody one-on-one, find out exactly what your situation is and what you're trying to accomplish, and then dial in the best opportunity and give you a quote on what you're looking for. And then we'll obviously take that retail price. We'll apply a REOCA discount, if you will. And, this is a huge opportunity for us to earn some business. I want to thank you guys for giving us the floor and giving us the opportunity to give you the pitch. And I would love the opportunity for us to dive deeper into your situation and potentially start a project for you.
Hey, Jake, thank you so much for your time, and Max, and everybody else. Can we get a copy of your presentation?
Yes, Max, will you email this out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And like I said, guys, if you spend some time with Max one-on-one, we'll start there and we'll continue the conversation until we have all the answers we need to feel comfortable with what we're offering, and for you to feel comfortable moving to the next step, which would be the site audit. When we do the site audit, we're going to spend all the resources and all the time necessary to make sure that we have the complete installation figured out, and we're on the same page with you guys, and that we're able to deliver what we said we would be able to deliver for the price that we offered, and then move the project forward from there. But we do like to have that commitment before we invest the time and the resources to send our trucks out for a half a day to go through all those steps. But on the flip side, there's some protections there. And if for some reason the project just does not add up, then, no harm, no foul. That's part of the game. That's what we do all day. But 99% of the time, once we start the site audit, we complete the project and we just kind of dial it in and make sure that we're crossing off or checking all the boxes as we go, so that everybody comes out a happy customer.
Okay, thanks, Jake. I'm going to just open it up one more time. Are there any other questions before we let the folks from EcoMark go? Or actually, we don't have anything else on the agenda. This was kind of like I said, it was kind of serendipity. We're talking about this topic, and then you guys came in and talked to Roz, and we said, hey, why don't we present this to the members? There was a lot of interest. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'll make one other plug. Go to our YouTube channel. Okay, go to YouTube and search EcoMark Solar, and then click on, I think you have to click one extra button to see all the videos that we have. But I had a little fun with it, and I posted some videos of me experimenting with my battery. And so if you want to kill some time, go check us out on YouTube, watch some of our videos, and you can kind of see firsthand what my setup looks like.
So Jake, can you post your URL on the chat there, or is it? I mean, is it just?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it. Give me one sec.
You got it, Max?
And may I say one thing?
Yeah.
Hold on.
The reason, everyone, that we had this meeting tonight was because EcoMark gets very busy as it gets closer to the end of the year, and for you, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, September 30th is essentially the end of 2020 for you. Is that correct? So that any jobs you start after that would be at the lesser tax credit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've actually had to move that window even farther up to August 30th.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay.
With the COVID stuff, with the COVID stuff going on,
wow.
The permitting offices are just taking a lot longer to turn things around.
Good point.
And so we had always traditionally said 90 days or less we'll get it installed. And what we don't want to do is put either of us in a situation where we're not able to do that. So
great.
We've kind of updated our deadline to the end of August in order to get the job done by the end of the year.
Well,
and that's just something that we've done because we've seen the permitting process take a little longer. And quite frankly, these batteries, the solar installation is a bit quicker of a turnaround, but these battery projects are very involved. And so we want to make sure we give ourselves enough time to make sure you get that tax credit.
Excellent. Well, good thing. So everybody heard that. So if you're interested,
we'll update our blog posts about the solar batteries. Okay.
I think we're ready to adjourn unless there's any other comments or questions.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, obviously, anyone who wants to meet with me and just go over the details, I'm ready to do that for you. Do you guys want me to send you an email address and a phone number that you can reach me at?
Sure.
Okay.
You can put it right in the chat below.
All right.
Well, that, and we'll send it out to everyone too.
Okay, well, hey, thank you so much, everyone. I really enjoyed listening to this topic. It's always
A lot of good info.
Yeah.
Great.